Good evening. We have, at this time, we'll gather up and have our work session. Our regular scheduled council meeting will begin at 6:30. We'll get going on our work session here with our department heads and our council. So we'll start with you, Brian.
Yes, sir. I think the last time we were here, there was some discussion about CSX and whether or not CSX was going to send us over the next round of leases and agreements for us to move forward. I had prompted them immediately after that meeting, asking them when we would see something. And all that really did was we finally received the executed copy of that original drainage agreement. So they sent that, but they didn't give me any answer as far as when we would expect the new leases or anything like that. So we're still in the same place. But I had reached out to CSX's their attorney, and they had not given me any additional information as far as when we might see that. So once again, I think it's time for me to reach out to them again. And of course, July 4th, I can understand it maybe some delay because of the holiday. But I just want to let you know that it just has not been provided to us for us to push that forward. But that's really all I have to report.
We have a contact. I know that we've had a lady that's been here with us.
And I've had, Sherry, I've had her in my exchanges, and she was part of the email exchange that when I reached out to them. So
she was real eager to get us in the right direction.
And she was, but I think it's probably more of a legal team issue. But we'll continue to push it and make sure we get that moving forward. And also, I know there may be some questions that y'all might have as far as what's on the agenda tonight as far as the wheeling. So I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all might have. But I'll wait till we might have questions to go through that.
Okay.
There's a lot to it, but at the end of the day, this is going to, this new weed lien would give the city more ability to recover fees whenever it does have to a certain weed lien, and I can kind of walk through some of the benefits of making the change when we get to it.
Just a quick announcement, we have our, we always do like a wellness, our annual wellness check and everything for our employees. That helps us keep our rates down and everything. And so, July the 24th, we'll be having a makeup day, so like anybody that hasn't had their wellness check, you know, just come by the city hall from 7:30 to 9:30, and any managers that have new employees that haven't had that, this is the time to catch them up and everything, so that we meet our percentage to keep our rates and the preferred status.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I just have the budget work session dates on the agenda.
So you
I have two announcements. They aren't on the agenda. The first is I have several thank yous to hand out for area fire departments. Last week, one night of the 3rd, I believe, we had a big commercial fire, and then while that was going on, we had our normal regular calls, and we had a big car hauler fire on the interstate. And during that event, we had another wreck on the interstate. We had a person in labor on the interstate and several bad medical calls. So at one time in the city of Calera, we have Alabaster, Pelham, Columbiana, and Montevallo responding to separate calls for us, as well as assisting us on the big calls. And then we also had our tanker task force, which is pretty much all the local volunteer fire departments shuttling water to the interstate with tankers. So we had all of South and West Shelby County and Calera working that night. So we appreciate that. And I want to make that public. And number two, I have an announcement to make, and we will have an ordinance or a resolution at the next council meeting that we'll need to adopt. But we were awarded a $43,886,000 grant from Firehouse Subs for extrication equipment. And Renan Conte did the work on that. I want to thank him. So we apply for this quarterly, and this is the first one that we've received, so that's going to be a great benefit for the city. That's it.
Got quite a few things. First, I handed you guys a letter. It's from 2021, but I wrote a letter to the Railroad Board, the Federal Railroad Board, asking for clarification based on really a lot of requests from you guys and questions from you guys back then. I've had some more questions recently, so I wanted to give that to you again to maybe clarify. The last line kind of sums it up. It states that states can pass laws governing railroad time, blocking crossings and all of that, but it's preempted by the federal law. Basically, they don't have to obey. One thing, though, that is interesting that's on there that I think is important, and I think it's on our city website, I believe it is, I'll check with James, but there's a link on there where citizens can report incidents at crossings, either the arms being down or the trains being there for a long period of time, and that's being reported to the Railroad Board, not directly to those individual railroad companies. Now, at the crossings, there's a phone number where you can call and report. And it's far more powerful, in my opinion, for individual citizens to call and report problems than 50 citizens to call the PD and we call once. I mean, we're going to call them every time. Now that we've got the cameras, which are awesome, we can see when they're blocked and we're going to call. But I think there's probably a little more power behind additional calls, and we encourage citizens to call. I've posted it several times, but you know, if I was the dispatcher at CSX or Norfolk Southern and I got 75 calls instead of the PD calling 3 or 4 times, that might have a greater effect. But anyway, citizens have the ability to reach out to the Federal Railroad Commission, and that link is on that letter. And I do believe, if I'm not wrong, that it's on already been put on our city website. So if you still have further questions, let me know. But that kind of says what the bottom line is as far as how we can enforce. It's federal territory. We can't board a train. We can't tamper with the crossing arms. It's illegal for us to do that. We auctioned a lot of items here in the last year. Kelly may can help me with this, but some of the items we auctioned have to be, the money from those auctions has to be spent on law enforcement. There are some other items that we auction that I believe go into the general fund. Well, the total amount that we got from those auctions was $44,919. And we spent on we had the carpet in dispatch that we had to buy that was an overrun cost that I didn't account for. I've told you about that before. It's that static proof carpet. I actually thought it was kind of silly. We went over to 911 and they said, no, you got to have that kind of carpet. Anyway, we paid for that carpet out of that, and we bought a kennel for our second K-9. You know, we hired an officer that had their own trained K-9, and we bought a K-9 kennel for the car, and we spent that roughly $22,000 of the money. The remaining amount of money is enough for us to buy a drone that would be capable to use at night. It would have FLIR. Our current drone does not have night capability. When Mr. Wathaka was missing, pretty much every time we have an occurrence where we need a drone, we have to borrow drones. We use Alabaster and Helena quite frequently. But there's enough money left for us to purchase a very much upgraded drone that would have night capability, mapping capability, a lot of capabilities we don't currently have. And my question, I guess, for Kelly is, or for you guys, I'm not sure, but the money that came from our auction that went into the general fund, can we add that to the money that's designated for the PD and spend that on a drone? That's my question.
Would have been a good question to ask before we got in here, so I could have pulled all that information, so I don't have that readily available. Was that
Okay.
all received in this current year?
Yeah, I guess whenever we had the auction, so yeah, it would have been this
In
year.
current year. And you're saying it has to go to law enforcement because it was with drug seizure money?
A good portion of it, so no, since it's the military equipment, it has to be used by law enforcement, by law. Not all of it, though. There's about $10,000 of it that is not in that category, and it's my understanding that it goes in the general fund.
Yeah, any auction equipment goes into the general fund if it was police, like when there's an
Yeah.
auction and water goes to water, it goes to its fund.
Yeah, so probably our patrol cars and leftover equipment like that that we
Right.
auction, that's probably where that $10,000 came from. But, I mean, it's not something I'm asking you to act on now, it's just, I just want to bring it out there and let you know that we would like to be able to buy a drone. We cannot get a drone, you know, most everything we've gotten through grants. And we cannot get they will not allow us to get a grant for drone. Drones are a no-no, and that's just a rule. So we have to find another source of income of funds to pay for a drone.
How much are we talking about as far as?
It varies, but the top end would be about $18,000 for a really, really good drone. And like I said, we've got a decent drone, but it's pretty much daytime only. And for searching for people after hours, it's not suitable. And, you know, like, we had plenty of help, but like, you know, with the fire department said, we get all this help for Calera, I'd like to be able to help other people too, and we'd like to have our own drone. Because with a search, the drones have a limited time, flight time, 45 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, and you're continuously having to swap drones, that kind of thing. Our side-by-side is a perfect platform for us to put the drone. We could put a generator on it, and we could go in the woods and take that drone, you know, with that side-by-side that we purchased with grant money. Just something I wanted you guys to think about, to consider, and then, you know, Kelly can come back and look at the numbers. I'm not asking you to act on it tonight. Just wanted to bring it up.
Can we put that on the meeting for next, on the agenda for the next meeting?
I've got all the numbers I can give you too, that Heather had. Last week, we had a training for 1 week for basic SROs, and we hosted the training here at our facility, so our 3 new SROs got to go free, and substantial savings for the city. And the hosting cost was minimal. You know, we did it at our training room at our police department. Next week, we're hosting a federal course on active shooter instructor training. We're getting 3 slots. So we're going to have 3 of our officers, SROs and other officers, trained to train others in the federal active shooter response. I used to put on federal training. I did that for many years. I've told my guys, when the feds come here and do the training, if we make their job easy, they will come back, because they're given money by the federal government to do state and local training. We're getting 3 slots in that school free as well. if this goes well, we want to host some leadership training, which is very expensive. If we host leadership training at our facility later that the feds, from the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center put on, we can get free slots for our people and save the city money. So that's something that we're trying to do. And I'm confident that we'll put on I'm confident we'll be good hosts for them and be able to do that. Coming up on the 21st is our case camp. We had case camp last year. It's for rising sixth graders, the 21st through the 25th. They'll be graduating the afternoon of the 25th at 2 o'clock. And I think that program was very successful last year. And we got some new things planned this year, but we've got a lot of help from different local celebrities that are going to be there and speak to the kids, and some local people from the area as well that help out with that. And I'm excited about our next case camp. On the 22nd, we'll have parent night. And you know, we have several parent nights every year. This one will be in the summer, of course, but that will be at 5:30 at Christian Life Fellowship. And that will be, the topic will be mental health. I know that's something that we've talked about and dealt with in here, and I know Councilmember Morgan has brought up on a number of occasions, and it is a crisis. So we're going to have Central Alabama Wellness come at Christian Life Fellowship 5:30 on the 22nd, and we're going to have training for parents on mental health resources. We're very excited about that. And we've also been talking to Seth, and I want to let Lieutenant Grant talk to you a little bit about conversations that Seth has had with Lieutenant Grant about a proposed ordinance to make basically our events safer as they relate to juveniles. So, Lieutenant Grant, would you share what you worked on?
So earlier I put a letter up there with y'all. Basically what we're trying to do is enact some kind of ordinance that restricts the age that kids can be dropped off and left unattended at parks. The main reason we want to do this is football games. A lot of times the issues that we have with kids misbehaving or causing issues is middle school age kids, and there's no parents in sight. We're dealing with 12-year-olds that are being dropped off and left, no supervision. And then I've also talked with Seth about other city events that we host at the park. Attached in that document, there are some examples of other cities and school boards that have done it. Main thing with us is we're kind of unique, is that the city owns Oliver Park and the stadium, so it's really up to the city government to come up with what we want the rules to be. It's not up to the school board. So we're just asking for some kind of ordinance. There's some examples in there, but we think that would help with some of the issues that we've been having, and I'm sure some of the issues that Seth deals with at the park.
What is the middle school age? What's the sixth grade age?
6, I know the oldest, 8th grade would be 13, so you're still with 6th grade dealing with about 11, somewhere in there, 11, 12.
So based on the information that you found, what age do you think we should have?
We feel like 16, if they're old enough to drive there, they can be on their own. Like I said, this isn't going to fix everything, but we feel like this would be a big benefit for the city so that we have something that we can enforce. You know, we can put signs up all day with rules, but unless it's an ordinance, our hands are tied with what we can enforce.
Wasn't there incidents of children fighting and what have you, being left there without supervision?
Yes, we have quite a bit. It doesn't matter what event we have, whether it's a football game, middle school, high school, movie nights. I think the last movie night we probably had maybe 15 there actually watching, maybe 60 people that were not there for movie night that were there. Just dropped off and left. So the other problem is like, for example, on the movie night, the last one, it started thundering, so we had to cancel early. Well, there's not a parent there to get the kids, so the kids kind of stuck there until they come get them. If they, even text their parents to tell them to come. So that's another issue. With the 16-year-old, also, I think it kind of allows us the opportunity to, most kids have an ID by that point to be able to have some accountability as far as age, what age they are.
So what were you able to do with all those kids being left without a parent? What happened? What took place?
Well, all we can do is ask them to, to go home. That's why we're asking for this ordinance. Currently, there's nothing in place that, our park closed at 10. you know, so really, we don't have a leg to stand on, to be quite frank with you, when they're left there, because right now, the park is open till 10, and so they can be there.
So nobody stayed to kind of watch over them?
Well, I mean, we've got people there to watch, but I mean, I don't mean offense, Ms. Kay, but if I drop my kid off, I'm gonna be there to watch my kid.
I understand that,
It's
but.
not really, I don't feel like it's another person's responsibility to watch my child. That's just my personal opinion.
Right, so we look forward to getting this ordinance taken care of.
Would it
Attorney,
be beneficial to lower the age a little more?
I mean, that's something we could talk about. I mean, it's up to y'all, whatever age y'all feel is appropriate. But I will say it will help us, and we do have middle school SROs that are working these games, so I feel like if we have kids that are lying about their age, things like that, we'll have a good idea of who they are. But I think to us, talking to Seth and talking with the SROs, 16 is kind of the age that everybody thinks would be appropriate.
And you are speaking just about events, not just somebody, not children that's coming to the park.
Correct. Only during
Only events.
big events is our main concern, because that's really the only time the police department's involved in planning and setting up security measures, that kind of thing.
Mayor, if we pass 16 as the age, if it needs to be adjusted, can we do that?
I think anything you pass can be adjusted. So, figuring out the right age may be something that does get tweaked at a certain, later in time, but let me ask you, on the vandalism, I know Seth had a lot of vandalism from time to time at the park. Is that done by a younger age of children, or what age group was vandalizing?
I mean, we've had middle school, it's mainly middle school, you know, we'll see an uptick in vandalism during spring break, during Christmas break, and obviously during the summer when they're not in school, we see a little uptick. Typically, it's middle schoolers, which, you know, occasionally ninth. I mean, once you get to the juniors, seniors, and really almost sophomores, you know, they got other things they're doing, you know. But that younger age is really where it's at. You know, the last movie night, we had a vandalism in our bathroom.
I know you've had vandalism in the bathrooms, you've had vandalism in the concessions, so maybe this will help curb some of that.
Would be the hope.
My only question would be exactly how would this be enforced and who would do the enforcement?
So it would be left, since it's a city ordinance, it would be up to the police department. If we're encountering a juvenile that's causing problems, fighting, vandalism, things like that, we can actually make them leave the park if they're causing problems. Call their parent, make their parent come pick them up, that kind of thing.
And if they are disobeying an ordinance, then you can take it another level and trespass them.
Yes, you can trespass, you can bring it before the municipal court, summons the parent, all of those things. We don't want it to get to that point, we just want something that we can actually enforce that's approved by the city.
Would that be, okay, I get it with the police department being able to enforce that. But if Seth, would his employees be able to do it also?
That would be-
Yeah, I mean, we would train ours to do that, and obviously if they encounter an issue throughout that, then the next step would just be to call the police. I mean, we're not gonna sit here and write a citation, we're not gonna force somebody to leave. It'd just be no different than we have an incident between adults at the park. You know, we're gonna try to handle it calmly, you know, if we can, but if it gets to the point where, hey, this is not something, then what we always do is we call the police and we ask them to come and give us some help, and they always do, we always take that, so.
And ultimately, it would be up to the city or the city employees to do the trespass or to ask for a trespass warning. So I would just point out that that would be where that would come in as far as, yes, you can do a citation, technically don't really want to get that far, but when it comes to actually trespassing, telling people you can't be here, then the employees can absolutely do that.
At a certain time of the day, this will be enforced. What about just the standard people riding the bicycles down to the park, 14-year-olds, 12-year-olds?
Our-
Will We got a timeline?
Well, our main concern for us is the big events, like football games, anything like that. Not really concerned with, Saturday afternoon, a 14-year-old riding a bike through the park. They're not causing a problem, we're not worried about it. This is specifically for us, for big athletic events where we have thousands of people in the park.
But it would also help if there was a curfew, I think, for teenagers at a certain time, that they're not allowed in the park. Don't you agree?
These other cities have curfew in the time, maybe 11 or 12 o'clock at night, especially on weekends. Is it 12 o'clock?
There's some times that are in there from different cities. I know our park closes at 10 o'clock. That's the rule we've always gone by. So if we have juveniles or anybody in the parks that late, we run them off.
I prefer a little bit more citizen input on this before we jump out there and vote on this ordinance.
Yes, sir.
We would have to prepare an ordinance, so we don't have that at this time. So we'll give it some consideration. Brian, I think you would
Yes, sir.
be looking out for some good language and
Sure, and as I understand, if we don't go so far as to do anything, as far as an actual curfew, then it hopefully, it sounds like we're just simply plugging in a new age restriction that shouldn't be very complicated to put together. So if there's any additional instruction, I've given my card out to the chief so that they can, forward what we have on the books, and I'd be happy to take a look at it. But my hope is that I won't hold on to it too long if we're just, changing the age.
Thank y'all.
so,
I know.
yeah. Roger's here for Bill tonight. Bill, you're a little taller.
I am, just a little bit.
James?
Yes, what's on the agenda?
All right. Let's do our council roll, and Ms. Kay.
First, I want to thank the Main Street Board. We need to give you a round of applause. The Main Street Board of Directors, Jackie Batson, Dolores Starkey, Alicia Anderson, Kelly Baja, Shelby County Commission, for loaning us the Discovery Stage Main Street Plaza, including TNT Fireworks of Calera, for the amazing fireworks show. Our fire department and our parks and recreation for making this event spectacular. This event has grown over the years, but this year was the best yet. Y'all stepped up and knocked it out of the park. So we thank you so very much for a fantastic 4th of July downtown Calera Main Street. Like I said, it was spectacular. And we thank you so much. Okay. Next, Councilmember Cost. Now, I know we worked with a vendor that did 3D scanning inside and out of our Cosby building. So, do you think that information would be helpful for our architect to get that, that presentation that he's planning for us? Would that help him with that?
Well, I'll tell you, I got a phone call this afternoon from the architect, and he wants to meet this week. He wants to bring his design team to meet with us here this week. To let the design team do that building also. And then once the design team looks at that, then they can put everything together for a 3D version of it, or a drawing of it. But they want to meet this week. He said that he would contact me tomorrow and let me know exactly what time the design team could be here, what day. So once I get that, then I guess maybe we just need to set up a meeting, everybody to go forward with it, but it is, they are active on it, and they ready. They said if we meet with the design team, they should have us a small rendering of it by the next council. So that's what we're saying.
So we're in the process of moving this initiative forward.
Quick, yes.
Yes.
Yes, they've working, they haven't forgot us, it just takes a little time, and once we get the design team, the architect groups here, then we can put the package together for what we think, and then we need the citizens' input on what they think about it before we go any further.
That sounds great. Sounds really good, because we definitely need something, a revenue maker for that Cosby building. That's a long time coming, so we're looking forward to that presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
And Chief, you already gave us information on how to communicate with CSX in Norfolk. That's what I had another question about, communicating with them during those times when the gates are down and the train is stalled on the track. And you know, we have all the traffic on 65 during the summer, so just needed to know how to get information to them so dispatch can give us the alternate routes.
Yeah, and I do want to encourage people that just please don't overwhelm our dispatch, because frequently we'll have emergencies we're handling, and it's not unusual for them to get dozens and dozens and dozens of calls about the, and I understand people are frustrated, but it's not gonna, the train ain't gonna move any faster, no matter how many times they call us, and I don't know that sending something to the railroad board's gonna help. The mayor asked me to contact them in 2021. I don't know if he remembers, but I think it was probably like 6 months before they even responded to my letter with what I gave you there. So it's just, it really does cause difficulty, especially at times when we have one dispatcher and the phone is just ringing off the hook about that. And some people, I know we've had some people that are upset and they think if the police call them, they'll move the train, but they will not. They don't care. I don't want to publicize some of the things they tell us because I don't want to make them mad at us, but.
So as you stated though, there's a camera there, so you know when it's stalled anyway, or when the gates are
We know.
malfunctioning.
It's right there in dispatch. We know, absolutely. We know immediately.
So, yeah, so all, the fire department is aware that they need to find an alternate route.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, well, that is all I have, thank you.
Debbie?
So I appreciate the update that everyone received about the restrooms at the pickleball court at Rolling Hills. Do we actually have a projection of when they will be completed? I know it's being wired.
Say it one more time, I'm sorry, please.
The pickleball, the restrooms at
Yeah.
pickleball at Rolling Hills.
Yeah, completion, they're not far from it, they're just lacking a couple things.
No, like 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks? Okay, so I had some complaints about Rolling Hills, and I rode out by there. When you come into Rolling Hills, that little pond there, it looks like we may cut the grass, but we are not getting close to the water park, and we're not weed eating it. So it looks extremely swampy. Is there anything that we can do for that?
Yeah, I had a meeting with them today about that.
Perfect.
Yep.
Do we have an update on the lights at the walking trail?
Yes, he said it's gonna start Thursday or Friday.
Thursday or Friday. Okay, Roger, I have a quick question for you. Do we have an update of any movement on the TAP grant?
Oh, I don't know, no.
You don't know anything about it? Mayor, do we know anything?
I didn't talk about it temporary.
I haven't heard anything. Bill is it?
Okay.
I know Kara and Bill were doing that.
At the Main Street? On 25, yeah. I know they're in the design, but I haven't heard anything else on it.
Okay. All right, that's all I have to pass it down tonight.
Kenny?
Back to the railroad, I think, the biggest thing we need to do as a team here is all of our council, mayor and all, push toward getting that bridge over that railroad track as quick as possible. That's the key thing. getting over that railroad track and opening that corridor all the way up to the interstate, that we can push, call 911 dispatch all we want to, but that does hinder them. Our thing is, we need to get our representatives and push. I know the mayor has been in meetings with some representatives recently about that. So I think the more pressure we put on them as a group, the better off we are. And that's basically what I think I see the problem is we need to team together on to just one or two people. We put the heat on them real good together, and maybe we can get somewhere with them. This is a major problem here, especially with 65 the way it is. And I'm already seeing at Whippoorwill, getting out on 31 is a major problem. And also, we got school when we starting up. And Roger, the visibility at that intersection needs to be addressed bad, because you really have to pull way up and almost get in the road before you can see the traffic.
Cut back on 25?
Whippoorwill,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You want us to cut back on 25?
got it back on both sides of the road where we can see it. We can't drive it and look at it.
Okay.
The road is just tight right there. So the visibility is bad.
Yeah.
So that's the state. So
Yeah, we'll call the guy from the state.
we need to get with them and try to get something done about that. It's really, I think we should go ahead on and do a study on the life there. Because we've got a lot of traffic going out there, and it's gonna take another 2 or 3 years before we get this railroad, even if they got started. I think it would grab a lot. So
Be close.
I would like to see us look at it before we get major problems there.
Okay.
If we got one, we just got to do something about it. That's all I got, Mayor.
Kevin?
Yes, thanks. To kind of piggyback on what Kenny is talking about, not only do we need a light there, I think I brought up this subject some months ago about widening 31. And if I'm not mistaken, Mary, you asked someone, I think you asked Bill to get some numbers for you. Do you remember that?
For widening 31?
The possibility.
The state, we've talked to the state about widening it, and the expense right there is the bridge over the road, right down Marvin. Now, that's that area, so. The state has it on their plan. At one time, I thought we could look far enough into the plan to find it. But another, they've talked about it, so I don't know how to speed that up, but we have been advocating for it.
Okay. And one of the things that, we're gonna have to start looking into, coming up with plans, as to how we're gonna start getting some of this infrastructure, addressed. Because, like we said, we're dealing with state roads, we're dealing with county roads, and we have our own roads to deal with as well. But we have to come up with a plan, because of the growth that we're having. And we hear what the citizens are saying, that, hey, we can't get around, we have traffic light problems all over the city. And if we don't come up with a plan to how to address these issues, and we can't depend on just for the state to do it, we can't just depend on the county to do it. But we see the problem, but what are we doing to address it as far as with the plan? And also, for the next second, a couple, I just want to say, my heart is heavy in lieu to what is taking place out in Texas. I can't imagine sending my child out to a summer camp and something of this magnitude happens. It's heartbreaking. And I just want to just address and just say how sorrowful my heart is for those people. I'm praying for those that have lost a loved one. I'm praying for those that are still lost. And I ask the city of Calera to please continue to pray for them, because it could be us. That's all I have.
Ellen?
Just one quick question about the traffic signal that has been approved here at the city hall. What's the status of that project? And us also having to alter our parking lot.
The plans are being worked on, Bill's got that, we'll have to produce plans and bid the project, so.
Have some people from the bridge and other subdivisions that come down here, accessing 31 there, having a hard time. So it was in the works.
There is a red light being put out on 31 right here in front of our parking lot. And there are other red lights that the city is addressing the needs on 42 and 70. And we're spending money, this council, I know through my entire administration, has spent money, a lot of money, for infrastructure. We've done road widening, we've done bridges, we've done improvements, we've paved roads, we've spent the proper money as the money's been available for infrastructure. It's something that's constant. So we have been paying attention, and we have continued with our plans for improvement. You've heard every council member talk about infrastructure up here, and we talked about the biggest need that this council will have an opportunity to spend money on will be that bridge over the CSX government. So we are continuing to spend money and our resources on infrastructure, and it's got to work with the state and the county as well. All parties involved have spent money, and the infrastructure has been addressed to the best of our ability for the city of Calera. I know it's an election cycle, it's election season, everybody hears everything in the world about infrastructure and roads. We understand it. It's been dealt with and worked on. Just for the public, bear with us. We are addressing the needs. Doesn't seem like it comes fast enough, but we are addressing the needs. And it's water infrastructure, it's sewer infrastructure, it's a simple thing as a red light. We know the needs, and we are addressing them. But it takes those tax revenues to do so.
This one here in particular is in the design phase.
This one is, and it was approved on 31. Ernest?
Yeah, what I'd like to touch on is ordinance 2025-06. And I guess maybe you can answer that one, or Kelly, I guess. But the amendment to that health insurance, what is the purpose of that one? I know we put something in place, a couple of 2 or 3 years ago. And it's been that, I just want to know why. I think there was a cap on it before, I think.
We've had something in place for a while, and then we have cap, and then 2 years ago, we raised the cap again. When we raised the cap 2 years ago, we really wanted to just change it to a percentage, that way you're not constantly reassessing it, and that's why we did it. When we were looking at the percentage, we were before 80-20 with a cap. I dropped down to 75-25, because that's how we divide our health insurance for family coverage, so that's how I came out with that number. We just want to get it to a percentage, so you're not constantly having to readdress the cap. Debbie had asked what the cost would be. We only know what the cost would be as of today, because we don't have the new numbers, but we will have those until probably right after budget time. They give us an estimate for like 6 or 7%, but the retirees is always different than the regular estimate they give us. So the cost for 1 year as of what's on it today is $34,000. But I can't tell you what that cost will be until I get new numbers. But that's the reason for giving an updated thing, is to try to remove the cap from it and just do a straight percentage. You're gonna have the constantly. Because right now, a person that is retired, that premium is $2,427. So that person, the city's paying the cap, and that person's paying $1,277. It's almost getting to the point we say it's a benefit to our employees to be able to stay on insurance, but if they can't afford it, it's not a benefit.
So if we went with this percentage, how much would the employees retiring need to pay in?
If the employee that's family, not Medicare, his premium he's paying today, $1,277. If you pass this, it drops it to $606.75 a month, and that's more in line with your state employees that retire and PDS employees.
That's the 75%. That's 75%.
So my question is, we did this 2 years ago, and it was all good at that point.
Well,
And we-
good, it was just the only thing we could do.
We did that, I
Yeah.
agree, we did that. But, this is on the agenda tonight, and I personally have not had time to really think about this and evaluate numbers. I would have thought that we would discuss this during our budget session, so that we would see where we actually are. And it makes me concerned, and I'm just the one person here, that we're already reevaluating insurance that we did September of 2023, and we really need to evaluate where our employees are with their pay. So are we gonna have that information too when we go to budget?
Which we have not done a salary study. I mean, but I do have, when we're going through the departments, I am prepared to, look at what it would look like if we dropped 2 steps or we did a 6% COLA, where that would put us in line with other cities. So I was prepared to talk through that during the budget work session.
So is this something we can talk to in regards to the insurance and make sure our employees, I understand, the city paying 75% and the employee paying 25%. But I also wanted, I'm just confused that we just did this 2 years ago and now here we are doing it again. I think we need to work on getting our employees paid fixed and then ease this into the budget. Is this something that we have to vote on tonight, or can we pull it and then talk to it about it so that everybody is educated during the first budget meeting?
This was brought through HR. I've been deep in the budget, so that's a question for Stacy and Connie. I haven't been involved with it.
It's something that would want to be, do you want to talk about during the budget time, that's fine too.
Okay, so when's the deadline that we have to
I
make
think
this?
what brought it is right now we have more people retiring than we ever had at one time, at least since I've been here. I think we have like 7 people that are slated to retire at this point and everything. And a lot of our employees that are retiring are still below the Medicare age. And so it becomes a challenge to meet the 65 age, and still perform their duties to stay on to keep their family insurance and things like that. So, or they may have 25 years and they're eligible to retire, and that is a lot of, we get a lot of complaints from the retirees that that's a lot to pay, so we hear the people who've been with us for a long time, 25 years of service to the city, they're just looking to get some relief on, especially the family coverage. So that's why it's being brought up, because we hear complaints about it. So.
And I understand, and I know, and I want everybody to have insurance, and I want them to have the best possible insurance, and I want our employees to be paid
Right.
accordingly too. But me as a person, I had rather have had additional information and had this discussed during the budget than having it on agenda to vote on tonight. That's just me personally.
Oh, I understand.
I don't think it's a bit of a problem to table and deal with it in the budget work sessions.
There's some thought on it, but that's good, John, especially if we want to just table it and discuss it a little further during the budget meetings. Thank you.
Alan, would you open us up?
Before we go, come to the meeting, every one of us, this council board brought up, asking strengthen all parties involved in the Texas flood. While I can only imagine, what it's like as a child, but I know there's others lost as well, but lost a child. It's heart-wrenching, Father, we ask that you be with those families, those workers, fire police, so forth, as they help the families that are just hoping that they find their loved ones. We ask that you be with us as we move through this meeting, help us to make good decisions on behalf of the city, and we ask these things in your son's name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item I have on my agenda is the approval of the agenda, as it's outlined.
Are we gonna pull the insurance, retired insurance off?
We can just, we'll table that at the time we get there and make that motion.
I'll move with
I second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now I need a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting and our work session on June 16th.
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion? Second. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have, Kelly has some dates before you on the budget work session dates. It look like the dates are workable, most of them. Any discussion on those dates? Do I hear, we adopt those dates? Is good for council?
I second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
James, you have, a project and a grant update?
I just want to give you guys some updates on some of the projects that we're working on right now throughout the city. First, you all know that back in October, we went live with our financial software. That's going to be kind of the backbone of everything as we go forward here. Our main goal with all the software changing and upgrading that we're doing is for everything to communicate. That's an issue we've had for a long time in the city is different departments have their own different softwares, but they don't really talk to each other well. So that's kind of the whole point of why we're changing to the new system. But like I said, we went live with financials back in October. Now we're working on numerous different projects all at one time, which is our utilities, our inspections and permitting, our HR and payroll, court, and then we also have the WatchGuard video project, which I'm going to update you on that project as well. So that's kind of, again, what I just talked about there. All right, so inspections and permitting. On that project, we're moving from 2 different softwares that we've used over the past 5 years. We've tried some software, and again, it was one of those that did not communicate. So right now, we're bringing that into the Munis software as well in what's called Intergov. So right now, we're in the process of getting all of that data moved from both systems to the current system and testing that. So for those of you that haven't been involved in any kind of software or data conversion, that is a very cumbersome process, because you have to go through there and basically do everything in both systems and run reports to make sure everything matches. And that way, they call those passes, essentially to make sure that data is passing correctly and going in all the proper boxes that it needs to go into. So we're working on that with inspections, and that one's taking probably one of the longest ones because of all the data that has to be moved and that it's coming from 2 different systems. So the next one is the utility system. This one's going to be one that I think is going to be very, very beneficial to all the citizens, because when they log in, they'll have a really nice looking portal that they can do a lot of things from. Their bills will have their consumption history and all that kind of stuff on there. And one thing that we'll be adding that a lot of people have asked about is the ability to use an electronic check. So in case you don't know what that is, basically, for those of y'all that pay your power bill online, it gives you the option of credit card or electronic check, and you can put your routing information in there and put that in there. That is something that is not currently an option for our citizens. So once we go live with this, that will be an option. Other options that we don't have now that we'll be able to have is Apple Pay and then Tap Pay in person. So that'd be a big thing. That's a request we get from a lot of people. Myself, I'm a big fan of Apple Pay. I think it's a great thing, very convenient. So that'll be a good, convenient thing for our citizens as well. Another thing that we're changing with this, and this is kind of why it's taking a little bit longer, is you'll see there a second one says manual entry trash can serial numbers. In our previous system that we had was made 25 or 30 years ago, I believe. Tell you how old it is, it was made before Microsoft Excel. So nothing will export to Excel. So that's been a tedious process. But with what we're doing, the trash can serial numbers were all entered in a comment field. So that has to all be manually entered by hand for all the trash cans. So you can imagine how many trash cans we have in the city. So that will make it to where if we come up with a trash can that's found somewhere, we'll actually be able to do a search for it and find out exactly whose can that is, as opposed to just trying to find, who might live around it and have to look up all those individually. And it'll also help us keep a good inventory of how old our trash cans are and that kind of stuff. So right now we're in the process of doing what's called parallel billing on that. So we're actually doing all of our live billing through our current system, but we're also doing a second billing through our new system in a test environment. So it's not one that's going to bill our citizens twice or anything like that. Some of y'all may have got the test email we sent out the other day. So that's what the new bill will look like. It's much easier to read. I know that's been a lot of issue people have had with our current billing system, is the bills are kind of hard to read because of the font. So this new one's much easier to read. So those are just a few things that's going to change with the utility system, but all around it's going to be a much better and easier system for our employees to use. HR and payroll, this is really one that only affects our employees, but there will be a lot of things that affect that. Right now, if one of our employees needs to get like a previous W-2 or previous pay stubs, they have to actually come to HR in person to get those. Now they'll actually have an employee portal. They can go in there, pull up all their previous W-2s. They can even pull up a 5-year pay history of what their pay's been over the last 5 years. All kinds of things that makes their life a lot easier, and HR, because they can focus on handling all that stuff instead of pulling up that kind of paperwork. But I do want to give some major credit to Stacy and Kelly and Tabitha and Haley. And they've all been great because they're all having to do 3 or 4 jobs at the same time, because Stacy is involved with HR and utilities along with Haley, and Kelly's involved with everything. So, bless her heart, I throw more stuff at Kelly every day, but we still seem to get along pretty well. So I appreciate everybody's help, and y'all have been great. So another part of what we're doing with this process is verifying that all the journal entries and journal ledgers and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to bore you with all that, but there's a lot going in all this and a lot of moving parts. But I think we have a really good team working on it, and I just want to let everybody know we do appreciate all their help, because it is a lot of work. So like I said, we're running parallels on everything just to make sure everything matches up. So far, everything's looking pretty good. It's just getting those GLs and stuff figured out to make sure that everything goes where it's supposed to go. Court. Court's changing their software out too, so they're going to what's called Municipal Software Group. They have, that company has over 150 courts throughout the state of Alabama. A lot of them in Shelby County use this as well. So this will be good for them, makes their life a lot easier. So that's another one we're working on, data conversion as well. And then WatchGuard. WatchGuard was the one y'all approved about a month or two ago. So we've got the new server up. It's in the cloud. All the police cars and body cams and stuff are going to that system now. So now we just have to move all the data from the old system to the new. To kind of give you an idea, if you look there are 75,950 videos in that old server. That's a lot. So all that has to be moved. Ballpark idea, 3 to 4 weeks is how long that's going to take continuously moving that data. So that's a lot of stuff to move. But that's good. We'll get that in the cloud and it'll be much better there. Upcoming, sales tax and business licenses. If we didn't have enough stuff to do, we're going to throw that on our plate too. So those are 2 good things coming up. And again, this will make it to where everything talks with everything else. Some grants. I just recently was notified about a grant possibility by Calera, our grant writer. She wanted me to take a look at this, and basically it's a cybersecurity grant. It's done through FEMA, but it's administered through the state of Alabama Office of Information Technology. But what this will do is it gives us a lot of hardware and software upgrades that would normally take us a very long time to purchase. And the good thing about this grant is it is a recurring grant. So each year we can apply for something else. We can't apply for anything else that we already have, but we can get additional things to help us stay on the cutting edge of cybersecurity. I sent you all a detailed email about what all we're looking at this year. Again, like I said before, I kind of make it a policy not to talk about cybersecurity stuff in an open forum because I don't want to make us a target. So, but this is between about $47,000 and $62,000 worth of grant that requires no match on the city's part, so it is 100% funded through FEMA. So this will be a big thing for us. And then the last thing, I found a grant online. It's through the Alabama Department of Public Health, and this will benefit our 2 elementary schools. So I don't know if any of you have seen the playgrounds at elementary school, but there's like no shade at all. So what this grant is, like I said, it's through the Alabama Department of Public Health, but it's to promote skin cancer awareness. So what this does is they'll actually pay to cover portions of the playground. So the only caveat is it has to be covered within that $15,000 budget. You can't go over that budget. Y'all couldn't match it if you wanted to or anything like that. It has to be covered in there. So after getting with some playground folks, I had several people put different, I guess, quotes in as to what it would be to cover things. And actually, Seth made a good recommendation of the people that did the one at Oliver Park. And they were the only ones that would even come out and look at it. The rest of them were like, no, we can't do it for that much. But the ones that he recommended came out actually the same day that I called them and looked at it. And so we know the quality of the work they've done because they did a fantastic job at Eagle Park. But they said they can do a 24 by 24 covered area at the playgrounds for both the intermediate and the elementary school. So I talked to both principals there. They are super excited about it. Now, based on how the playgrounds are set up, you wouldn't be able to cover the playground equipment itself, but the areas where they sit and do snacks and that kind of stuff, that would actually cover them, and it's a 96% UV protection. So that would be a big thing for them. And then the Alabama Department of Health will actually come out and talk to the kids about the dangerous skin cancer and that kind of stuff. Because I believe the last statistic I saw said 1 in 4 people at some point in time in their life, can get skin cancer. So from sun exposure. So just a lot of the things that we're working on, but I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of all the good stuff that we're working on. I know a lot of times things that are brought to you are the things that aren't the great stuff. So I kind of just want to show you what all we're working on and see if you guys have any questions about any of the projects or grants or anything like that.
Good stuff. Thank you, James.
Any questions or anything?
Just one question, James.
Yes, sir.
That 15,000 per school, that's a school system or each school?
Each school. So for each school, I think the quote that I got came in at like $14,908 or something like that. So, but it has to cover every bit, including installation. So that includes them coming out, doing everything, and getting this done. And a couple other schools throughout the county have put these up. I don't know if they got them from grants or not. But yeah, so it would actually be, we're working with the Shelby County school system and the principals and that kind of stuff to get it done. So It's no liability to the city, there's no match for the city, not even a match for the county, so nobody's having to pay for anything at all. So it's 100% paid for by the Department of Public Health. Anything else? No? Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Chief, we have some new officers coming aboard.
We do. Before I bring them up here, though, I want to mention a couple things. It seems like I'm swearing somebody in about every other meeting. We've had over an 80% turnover in the 5 years I've been here. And we have very, very young officers that are out there. And we had 2 incidents that occurred this past week that were both life and death situations. And one of them, 3 of our officers was fighting an individual that we've had to deal with before. The previous time we dealt with him, he rammed one of our cars on purpose, one of our new cars on purpose. And this time, one of our officers was stabbed with a syringe and then was bitten. Thankfully, AIDS and hepatitis tests came back negative. And then we had another incident that you're probably familiar with at Waterford, where we had 2 juveniles that were armed, and our officers had to face them. One of these officers that faced them is just out of the academy. He's just a kid. And they're in an area that's full of children and families, and they're facing a life and death situation, and they're risking their life to make everybody else safe. And one of these young men, very proud of him, but I just introduced him to you a few weeks ago when he graduated from the academy. And it worries me, it keeps me up at night because we are so young. We've had an unbelievable turnover of officers, and I don't think it's any secret to any of you about the plague of youth violence that's in our country. And it touches us, it touches everybody. We are very, very lucky that we're not having a funeral for a kid, a child, or for one of our officers. We're talking about that tonight. We're very lucky that they went home to their families. Okay, guys, come on up here. I want to introduce to you Antonio Brown and Mark Eaton. And these are our 2 newest officers. You know, we had to replace 3 of our SROs. And Mark's going to be one of our SROs. I go way back with Mark's brother. He told me not to mention his brother, David, but I go way back with Mark's brother, David. And Mark has 30 years experience, and we're very lucky to have him. He's going to come on a part-time basis and be one of our SROs. And then Antonio here, he's not the Antonio Brown you've all heard of, but he's one you'll be hearing about soon. Now, he's been with us already a few weeks. He's already a graduate of the academy and has experience. And from all I hear, he hit the ground running, and I think everybody really likes Antonio, and I'm delighted that we have both of them. You guys will turn this way. And I want to do you both at the same time, so I want both of you to raise your right hand and put your left hand on the Bible. You can put your hand on top of each other. And then repeat after me. On my honor, I will never betray my badge.
I will never betray my badge.
My integrity.
My integrity.
My character.
My character.
Or the public trust.
Or the public trust.
I will always have the courage.
I will always have the courage.
To hold myself and others.
To hold myself and others.
Accountable for our actions.
Accountable for our actions.
I will always uphold the Constitution.
I will always uphold the Constitution.
My community.
My community.
And the agency I serve.
And the agency I serve.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I always read a Bible verse, and it's very timely now with the incidents that happened here in the past week. But this is my command: love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down his life for his friends. Welcome aboard, guys.
Next on the agenda, we have the Planning and Zoning Board appointment. Before you there, the recommendation came to us for Bill Davis to get back on the board. I know Bill served on there for a long time and became certified. Had a little vacancy for a moment, and then it's back. We're glad that you could physically handle that task. Good to have you back on there. You'll be replacing Tommy Edwards. Your term will go through August of 2026. This time, council want to make a motion or have a discussion on that?
I just had a question. We appreciate Bill's willingness to serve, and I know he had some illnesses, the reason why he had to step down before, but did we get any additional resumes?
I think we had a total of 3, Kevin, was that right? That, 3 different individuals that expressed interest. I know, I see one of the group here, Donnie Cook, was with us tonight.
And Arthur David, Arthur Tills was the first one that you received.
So there were 3 different, Bill and 2 others. Anyway, this recommendation comes from the chairman of the planning commission. It was discussed in that board meeting.
But also, if I'm not mistaken, and I attended that meeting, when you guys left that meeting, I thought that was still debatable. I thought that was something that you guys said that you would pick it up
No, that was,
and
the
continue to talk about.
planning commission only sends a recommendation.
But during the meeting, it was never said that the recommendation was coming out of that meeting when we left there. Sir?
I believe it was. It was even voted on.
I think some other members was there.
I think, what was in that meeting, I attended that meeting as well. And I think what they was looking at was the attorney was going to see what that alternate, that could be some legal issue with the alternate.
And that is my memory, but I think there was a separate issue as far as whether we could do alternates to the extent of Mr. Davis's recommendation from the board. I do not have any independent recollection of that. I was there, I just can't remember. But I'm sure the minutes can speak for themselves. But my discussion didn't have anything to do with Mr. Davis, as I remember. It was we had that issue of whether or not you can have an alternate on the board, and then I sent an email, I think, a couple days later explaining that was not allowed underneath the Enabling Acts.
So why didn't we have the other resumes to look at, and what was on their resumes, for us to make a decision? Is this your decision, May?
Yeah.
So that's your,
Yeah, based on the way the ordinance is, that the planning commission is made up of and appointed by the mayor. So I got a copy of that if you want to distribute that. Are you familiar with the way the board appointments are?
Right, I mean, I understand that, but you brought it to the council and you asked us to vote on this or to move on this.
That's just the way things have been done, you know, to formally let you guys know.
So really you just informing us, you're not asking us to move or vote on this.
If you want to vote on it, you can. If you want to make a motion, you can. Just one.
So it's not required for us to vote on this, it's just, you just presented it to us to, well, I'm trying to understand why it's presented to us if it's not required that we vote on it.
I think this common courtesy up to this point has always been to bring it to the council. Okay,
It's just a matter of fact then, okay.
Ernest, go ahead.
Mayor, from what I understand, the recommendation, and what I've seen, the recommendation coming also from the chairman of the planning and zoning, and it is your recommendation as your auditor to do the appointment. So I make a motion that we accept the appointment that you're recommending.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Moving on, streetlights at Lakewood, Randy Goodwin is,
He's not here, I don't think.
requested the lights be,
He's already put the lights up and he's sealed out the road. So I think he's wanting just the city to start paying the bill.
I think we've had that discussion before, the streetlights.
Have we accepted the streets?
Well, we've taken them over, but he still warranted it for a year.
Is that protocol, is that the way we've been
Yeah, usually.
accepting streetlights at the time we take the road?
I think once he seals it out, I think he's done on his end. It's just a maintenance issue now.
And the maintenance issue pretty much pertains to the warranty. Of the
Yeah, I mean, because we didn't have a bond on it, he just paid for it on his own,
I got you.
so.
What have we done for others
I think
in
about
the
the
same
same.
scenario?
I know we did it for Waterstone.
Waterstone, I think, was one of them.
And
I think maybe
Waterstone,
Timberline.
several of them.
Yeah.
Kensington, Waterstone, there's a list of them that we've been accepting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's anything out of the question. I think it's can't remember if I sent it kind of, I think it's $140 a month. That's what those run.
Well, I would make a motion that we move on this also. We've done it for others.
Got a motion and a second on the table, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ordinance 2025-07. This is a public hearing at this time, correct?
Yes, sir.
This is the weed abatement nuisance. A little bit of what we need to make our city look better. You all drive around and see cities' overgrown yards and nuisance, unattractive properties. We're trying to figure out how, and we're moving towards a little bit quicker remedy, and that's what this does.
Yes, sir, and if I could just give just a very brief breakdown of this. We have two statutes. One that I believe that the city more or less adopted from about 10, 12 years ago, where it gives the remedy of, you give notice to, an overgrown lot, you send them a letter out, et cetera, you go through all these little hoops, and then at the end of it, you can sue them. Well, that's like getting, blood out of a turnip. So several years went by, and the legislature decided that they would give an alternative way to do this, where you could actually add the, you could go through that same process, and then at the end of it, you could add a lien to be assessed by the tax assessor against the property, and then when they pay their taxes, they don't have the option of, well, I'm gonna pay my taxes, not the lien, they have to pay it all in order to the lien. And so the legislature has left these two alternative methods, and what that does is gives the city the ability to pursue either or, and this would be a manner in which you would still give the notice, you'd be able to move relatively quickly. I mean, from the time that y'all identify a lot that needs to be cleaned up, you send out letters, notify them that they should clean it up themselves. If they don't clean it up, cut the grass, etc., then you can go in and have either yourself, your crew, the city crew do it, or you can get a third party. It's a huge job. And then you can charge that lien against the property to be added to the tax assessor bill that goes out. So this is what this is. Basically, what you have here is something that pretty much adopts that second alternative. It gives you more options as far as getting that money back. The notice requirements pretty much are the same as what y'all had before. Just at the end of it, if y'all pay a bunch of money, you're more likely to get it at the end of the year as opposed to the way y'all had it set up before. So that's the biggest change.
I tell you what concerns me is the 12 inches of the height, because if it rained 3 or 4 times a week and you're unable to cut your grass, those weeds can extend, high very quickly. So if I'm not mistaken, James, I brought this to the attention the night that we had the storm. This yard right here, if you look at the monitor, that's exceptional right there. That right there is more than, whatever, 4 or 5 feet tall. But I'm just concerned about when we're seeing something get up to 12. That's my concern. I know we need something.
And it's straight out of the statute, because you have to have something arbitrary, something, you know, instead of having something arbitrary, say that grass is long, et cetera, the statute itself states 12 inches, and that's why I included it. But if you say had that person who just, you know, it's been raining for all week, and you've got 12 inches, if you send them a letter saying, hey, please cut this, that would be satisfied once they are able to cut it. And then you would have, they would be placed on notice to cut it for, a crew's not gonna run out there and cut it and slap a lien on it. They'd have to go on the notice of, this is a certain length, et cetera, please remedy this by X day, and they go all through these steps. So if that is your concern, I would say that the legislative procedure that they have should, once they put on notice of it, if they cut their grass, and then that's where it ends.
And I get that, but when we look at the flow of work, and we already saying that we are behind on, we need more employees, we need this and that. If a neighbor call in and say, hey, this person hadn't cut their grass, and we start getting these calls from all over the city, hey, this person haven't cut their grass. I'm just saying, where can this lead to for that number of what we're seeing here?
And I can't speak to, obviously, you are the decision maker, but I just want to let you know why the statute's set up the way that it is in each one. So obviously, that's your decision, but just want to give you all the information y'all have as far as why we presented this for you.
So basically, we can adjust the length of the weeds, like, instead of it being 12 inches, couldn't it go up like to a little bit?
I wouldn't advise it because it's straight out of the statute, and when you start changing portions of the statute, then someone can argue that you aren't operating within the full authority of the statute. You can, if you want to make it 11 inches, 10 inches, I don't think that would hurt anything legally. I think I could defend it. But my first instinct would be that I wouldn't stray much from the language one way or the other. I don't know where y'all would want to draw the line as far as how tall. I'm assuming y'all would want it higher than 12.
Yes, a little bit higher than 12 inches, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So you can do that, but I'm sorry, I'm thinking this through my head as you ask the question. I think it'd be permissible. I think that you could pass this with it being higher than 12 inches.
What's the typical grace period?
I apologize. I didn't have it here in front of me. I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe I can pull it up real quick.
I'm just wondering.
And there's also discretion. This isn't, the way this works, your department will send these letters out, and they're not required to immediately run out there and cut them after the 15th day. I mean, as long as it's no less than a certain amount of days, you can have your own internal, informal policy of, give people second, third, extra chances if you want to. But the statute gives you the ability to move quickly if you want to, or as slow as you want to. You can send these letters out, and you don't have to send the crews out for, months or days if you want to withhold that action. And I know a lot of other cities just never want to pull the trigger on this, and they will send third, fourth doses, even though they're not required by the statute. So to answer your question, I know that from beginning to end, if you have a real problem, you can basically come on the property within 6 weeks usually, to answer your question. The whole process can be vetted in 6 weeks, but that doesn't mean you have to move that quickly. I hope I answered your question.
There's plenty of time, in other words, I think.
And there's an appeal process. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm
if they say,
saying.
hey, there's nothing wrong with this, I think my yard's beautiful, they can come in and they can actually appeal that to the council in order for the council to address whether it was a nuisance to begin with. So they have a lot of rights as far as notice and as far as being able to challenge that they do in fact are violating that nuisance. They may challenge that it's met a certain length of the grass. So there's absolutely ways for them to come in and they have a lot of rights to keep up from just running in there and asserting a lien before they know what happened.
So also on the appeal, if someone appeals it, then one council member would be chosen to be on that appeal. I read that, I think, in the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
And one council member would be selected to work with that appeal to see where they're gonna be.
Yes, sir, and as I understand, while representing several cities, the goal isn't to go slapping lanes on every property in town. It is just simply to give some incentive to people to take care of their property, so.
Well, we got across the road right here, we got a tree laying out there on that commercial lot right now with the grass growing up, so I see it. But I think 12's too short. I think if we went to at least 20, that would be a little more acceptable for me.
But we gotta use discretion, we gotta use common sense here. In 12 inches, we're not gonna go out there and find somebody with 12 inches. The picture that he showed would be a perfect person. So I personally think what he has is great, and we just have to use common sense. Johnson grass can grow 12 inches overnight, but, if they've got one time the grass is 12 inches, by the time you get out there through this process, the grass is gonna be knee high, so I think he's got a good start for that.
I want to ask you a question about subdivisions with the HOA involved in. So where's the responsibility lay at that point?
It's all going to come down to whatever covenants they have. It's a very complicated response to that, because some of the HOA agreements are ironclad, and HOA may have fees, and they may actually go in and they may remove nuisances amongst themselves. That's kind of rare. Most of the time, it puts the burden on the homeowner to do it. It really comes down to those homeowner agreements. I've seen a lot of different ones in my career, so it really depends on how they enforce it against their owners. But ultimately, if you have an owner, how that interacts with this, you don't have to let the HOA, go through their process first. The city can take action immediately, irrespective of whatever the HOA, might have on the books to enforce it also. It may just be a second layer of that onion to maybe lean on and try to get them to comport to getting it all in shape.
Does anybody know what this ordinance looks like in an HOA? Or are HOAs saying 12 inches? I'm sure they've got some kind of language in there.
I've seen them, and I don't know the exact language I've seen, but I would be shocked if it got as high as 12 inches in HOA agreement. I'm sure that it's much, they probably keep them on a much tighter chain than that. Don't let it get to, so no, I can't tell you specifically what length I've seen in them, but I think that 12 is pretty, I'd be shocked if I saw an HOA agreement that had 12 inch high, allow for 12 inch high grass.
That's pretty shady. 12 inches is.
And the way the statute is written, it says that, this is being enforced to keep from having vermin, snakes, etc. So, legislatures, they picked a number at 12 inches. I guess you got to decide, how tall is, can you have grass to a point where it becomes a breeding ground for vermin or hiding hazards, etc. from children and all that. So of course, I can change the length of whatever I would like, but the only reason I picked what I did was just because it was in the statute.
The state statute.
Yes.
They have a chance to appeal it, so he would wait on
I don't know that we need to raise it. I think that just postpones the problem.
And this is outside my lane, but if you start the process at 12 inches,
What's it going to be?
what's it going to be by the time they proceed? So precisely.
So the city code enforcement officer that's appointed, or we have that officer, we got him appointed now, that person will go out and there will be paperwork for that homeowner to sign, or mail it, and
I think if the ordinance I wrote, if it properly tracked the statute, it should be either you send them, you provide them service, or you affix something to the property in a conspicuous place.
put a posted sign, put a
Yes.
sign on the door of where you at on the ordinance. I've seen them before in the building. Then 10 days, you have 10 days to respond on that. And then up to 28 days to appeal.
I believe so, yes, sir. I think it was a timeline.
I understand.
And if they do nothing in that period of time, the grass is going to be probably 20 inches tall.
And then, and again, this is, again, outside my lane, as far as legal, but, the cost increases. So I understand why it's 12 inches in the statute. But if there's a desire to change that, I'd be happy to.
I guess the public heard the council talking about it, and our legal, is there anybody here that wants to speak about this weed nuisance ordinance that we're trying to help ourselves look better? If there's no comments from the public, I'll close, go ahead, Donnie.
So would the city initiate this, or would it require a complaint from a neighbor?
Either.
Could be either.
We have a way to make those complaints online as well. Anybody else?
And I would say, Mayor, maybe to also answer this question, it's not like the enforcement officer would make the decision as to whether it is a nuisance, as opposed to a neighbor could just simply say, hey, I don't like this, city do this. The chief enforcing officer, he would be the one who would make the decision, as opposed to someone just calling in, dropping it down and saying that.
Then it's left up to the council for the abatement of the cost of it to make the decision whether they want to use a contractor for X amount of dollars or use our city employees for X amount of dollars.
That is
The
correct.
council makes the call.
Yes.
Okay.
Does everybody have a chance to speak? Come forward, where we can hear you.
Okay, I just had one question about all that, because y'all were talking about height and everything. If you went beyond the height of 12 inches, because the statute says 12 inches, if the city decided we'll go over 20 inches, somebody ended up going over there getting hurt, or a child got injured or everything, then is the city liable because they didn't follow the actual statute and they made the statute a little more?
I think once the complaint comes in would be when that would be valid. If we never get a complaint, if a neighbor doesn't complain and we don't see it, I don't see how the city would be liable.
And I don't think they would. I think that the city can make it, well, it has a little latitude, I think, in that area. That's why I had to sit here and watch me go through as I process it, to whether this would be something substantive that would create any sort of liability. This is precisely what I was trying to think through. But to answer her question, and if the council had the same concern, I don't see any liability in changing it to the city. Y'all have legislative immunity, et cetera. I don't think that would be a concern wherever they would decide to place them in the grass.
Well, why is it only just grass? What about junk cars and all of that stuff? Is this part of this?
I think and that's one of the reasons your previous nuisance statute, I think is good for things like junk cars and for dwellings, et cetera, maybe the roof's falling in, things like that. I think that what you have in the books is good. That's why I made it alternative, because I didn't want to repeal something good that you already had in the books. I wanted to give you an alternative option for doing grass limbs one way or the other. But what you have on the books, you can you have that same notice process, et cetera, but then you're usually, so yes, I think that what you have on the books does work for y'all. As far as, removing junk cars or, and I don't know that this has been an issue with y'all, but, as soon as we say it's not an issue, maybe it will be one, next meeting, is, having like a dilapidated, full house that you have to remove. That may take a little more work with your ordinance, that could be beefed up. But as far as getting things off of the property, like a junk car, I think you're good so far with what you have. Hope that answers your question.
So what I'm hearing, a city employee can do work on private property?
Well, the way this works, it's not, we have a prohibition, I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of turn, Mayor. We have a prohibition against city doing improvements on property. But the way this is set up and the way that the statute is set up, it is, you're not doing an improvement, the city is going in and abating a nuisance, something that that runs afoul of the morals and safety of the community, and then they're not improving the property, they're requiring the property owner to reimburse the city. So that's why it does not run afoul of our constitutional prohibitions against going in private property making improvements. That's a big no-no. This is not that. This is being reimbursed and removing a nuisance that could cause those problems of blight, et cetera. I hope that answered that question.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
You said there's an existing ordinance. So what is the difference between this ordinance and the one you're looking to pass? Is it just the lien?
There's probably some modest differences, but they pretty much go through the same kind of notice requirements, and at the end, it's just what sort of remedy that the city has to be reimbursed. The one that's on the books now, before they vote on it, says that we have to file suit, pay a guy like me to, actually file that thing, filing fees, spend time in court, et cetera, to pursue it, as opposed to just in the new ordinance would go through the same notice, essentially the same timing requirements, but at the end of that, all you have to do is basically do a resolution and send a letter to the tax assessor in order to add that to the tax assessment for that property.
All right, and is this the front yard and the backyard?
Oh, it would be anything on the property. It isn't limited to frontage. If it's a nuisance, if it's 18 inches in the back, it can be, the backyard, it can be just as much of a public nuisance as it could be if it was the front yard. So it doesn't have to be visible. It could still be a nest, for vermin and snakes, et cetera. So it would include the entire property.
So I live in Timberline, which is fairly strict with their weed abatement and grass restrictions. But I have a hill. A lot of people in the neighborhood have hills. That is incredibly difficult to mow, and I know I only try to mow it once or twice a summer, and it definitely sits around 2 to 3 feet on the back part of my property up on that hill, but it takes 4 or 5 hours for me to get out there and get it all down, and so I know for me that would be an issue. I don't want to pay somebody else to do it, and I know that would take a lot of time, but it sounds like if there's already an ordinance, I get there's a little difference here, but the question then is it the moral thing to do to put a lien on somebody's house for grass? And I get it's to pay back what the city has expensed, but ultimately what you're doing is putting a lien on somebody's house for grass. That, obviously the photo, I'm all on board with that, I get it, but you have to look at what you can do, and that's the 12 inches, which absolutely can happen overnight. And I personally would have an issue with 12 inches and putting a lien on somebody's house for grass in the front yard. That's what I'm saying. I'd say it also would limit their ability to sell it and get it to somebody who will take care of the lawn.
The clerk will be the one responsible for the letter at the tax assessor's office. Or you?
This process, I've gone through it, it really boils down, all the different tax assessors probably have a different process. We used to do it just as a letter in Madison. It was yearly, basically the assistant to the tax assessor would call us up and go, hey, City Madison, what's your list for the year? And then we'd send them over a letter with that, we would only have 6 for the year in Madison, to give you an idea. But I don't know what the process is in Shelby County as far as what they require, but it shouldn't be very complicated.
All right, the public hearing part of this is closed. Council, do you have any final comments or discussion?
Well, myself, and this, I'm speaking for me, I think this is something we probably need to look at a little bit later and put a little bit more clarity and thought into this. Because, I think about some of these lots that's for sale, and some of these lots that, they are worse than the picture I saw shown tonight. And I think we just need to kind of pump the brakes on this. Is my recommendation for now, and let's look into it the next council meeting. That's my recommendation.
Counselor, I would also note that this is the first reading of the ordinance, so you, instead of having to table it, you can simply address or, it would be the same draft unless there's a different draft or something that changes that y'all would like to have made. So there's no need to table it since this is an ordinance. You know,
So you just have this as the first reading and
Yes,
then it'll be back on the agenda to take action on next week, or next meeting, 2 weeks. Good. All business on that. All right, ordinance 2025-06 is our retiree health insurance. And then we talked about that in the work session. And we want to take action on it tonight or talk about it in the budget work sessions or?
I'd like to talk about it in the budget work session.
I agree. I'd like to also discuss it during our work session.
Gonna make a motion to table
I'll make the motion.
I'll say.
it. Got a motion and a second to table it. All in favor, say aye. Resolution 2025-37 is the surplus of the old senior van. In your packet there. Get that off of insurance and out of our hair. It's not being, that vehicle's not being used, is it? Correct.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All right, D, you're up.
Yes.
Talking about our Main Street.
Yes, Kay had kind of addressed a little bit at the beginning about the 4th of July, but it takes more than just a few people. I want to thank the fire department for letting off our firework display. Of course, TNT is a great partnership in our community and has been a great asset, and they sponsor the fireworks for us, and they do not disappoint at all with that show. It was over 30 minutes long. So again, thinking the parks, the streets, it takes a whole community to put this type of event together. So I want to thank all of you and all of you guys who came out for that. We have several other events upcoming. We still have First Fridays and car shows, but the next big thing that we have coming up is also our rodeo. It's actually a stampede. It's a whole weekend of festivities. Tickets are already on sale for that. We're going to have 2 nights of the rodeo done by a professional group with bull riding, mutton busting, the whole rodeo experience, but also a car show and beauty pageant and live music, a whole festival that's free for the community during the day. So all kinds of things. So check out the Main Street Facebook page for that's coming. We're also having our annual Nerd Fest is coming up in November again. So going to continue with these type of events throughout the rest of the year, so continue watching your calendars. Thank you guys for all your help and all your support.
Thank you for what you do. We have Crystal and Ty. Will you want to say something to the council?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Crystal Bowman, and I want to begin by thanking each of you for being here tonight and for allowing me the space to share something deeply personal and incredibly important to our family. I'm here with my husband, Ty, and our children, Crystalyn and Keegan. We're proud to call this community home, and tonight I'd like to introduce you to not just our family, but to the incredible journey we've been on, one that has tested our faith, strengthened our bond, and inspired us to serve others. Crystalyn is our 13-year-old miracle. She's bright, beautiful, strong, creative, and full of life, but her path hasn't been easy. In 2019, while in public schooling, Crystalyn suffered what we thought was just a simple accident. Another child stepped off of a step stool and accidentally landed on her head. After several days of severe headaches and unanswered concerns, an MRI finally revealed something that we weren't prepared for. Yes, she had a concussion, but more than that, doctors found a lemon-sized brain tumor that had likely been there since birth. At the time, we were told to watch and wait, and so we did. From 2019 to 2022, MRIs every 6 months, and in May of 2023, we learned that the tumor had grown from the size of a lemon to a grapefruit, and it was pressing against her optic nerve. Without surgery, she risked losing her vision. On June 16th, she underwent surgery to remove the tumor, and only by God's grace, it was a success. Doctors were hopeful. It was a rare tumor called ganglioma, and we were told it wasn't likely to come back. But as life would have it, our journey didn't end there. Late in 2023, Crystalline started having unexplained back pain, and over the course of several months, we were told it was growing pains, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. On June 7th, 2024, while attending a First Friday event, Crystalline became disoriented and almost fainted. That night, I took her back to the ER and demanded answers. Tests revealed extreme pressure in her brain, fluid buildup that required an emergency brain surgery. That night, we were told that if she had gone to sleep without intervention, she may have lost her sight or even death. During that surgery, doctors placed a permanent shunt to help drain the fluid. Just days later, we received the news that the tumors had returned and she had brain cancer. Chemotherapy was recommended, but I couldn't accept that without seeking a second opinion. So I reached out to St. Jude Research Hospital, and they listened. They offered Hope, a trial drug called SJ901, a targeted therapy known as a MEK inhibitor. In August of 2024, we arrived at St. Jude, and Crystalline began the groundbreaking treatment. She is currently the only African-American child on this trial, paving the way for other children of color to access field treatment options. Within just 2 months, the results were miraculous. She is almost cancer-free. She still takes 10 oral pills daily, 5 in the morning and 5 at night. And yes, she says it tastes like chalk and berries, but she does it with a smile because she knows that she's not just fighting for herself, but others who will come after her. Out of this journey, we launched a nonprofit called Standing with Crystalline. What started as a hashtag, just words of encouragement, has grown into a mission. We're committed to supporting other families facing pediatric cancer diagnoses. We're giving back to St. Jude, raising awareness and helping children fight light even in the darkest of times. We are here, standing strong because of your prayers, your support, and your love. We've witnessed firsthand the power of community, and now we want to be that community for others. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for standing with Crystalline, and her journey can be followed on Facebook at Standing with Crystalline. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add that I wanted to introduce our business. We own JIL Sign Company here in Calera. We specialize in outdoor lighting signs. We specialize in indoor video walls, outdoor digital signs, scoreboards, and digital billboards. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that you do have a great sign company in your back door. So I have cards. I would love to talk to anyone that may be looking or know someone that's looking for a sign. So thank you.
Thank you to the Bowman family. Thank you for bringing that forward. That's all I have on my agenda, Ms. Dunn.